First and foremost, I want to say that I'm really not proud of that video. I'm really not. But the Lord is using that video for many, many things. And actually, this past Christmas, I received a call from someone that said that, congratulations, your movie has been funded. So there is a documentary / movie that's going to come out. And so to God be the glory. So there's so much that's not stated in the video that's very, very important. And one of the reasons why I'm passionate about trying to help juvenile justice and the mentoring program and things of that nature. I was adopted. I was in 4th grade, and one day a lady walks up and says, "Do you know who I am?" And I said, "No, ma'am." And she says, "I'm your mother." And I'm like, "Me?" No, my mom's at home. And that's when I learned about my mother and my father abandoning me and literally, throwing me away like trash. And when that hits a 10-year-old, I mean, how am I supposed to feel about myself? How am I supposed to be thinking? And then, the other part of it was the people I was living with, I felt had betrayed me because I hadn't been told the truth. This whole time you raised me in a lie. And what do we tell our children? Tell me the truth. Be honest with me. And I was like, what happened? What happened with all that? But again, as a juvenile and as a kid, you can't process all that. Because now when you fast forward and you realize, wait a minute, these people were trying the best they could and they loved me. They just didn't know how to go about doing it, and they did it the best they could. But again, it took maturity and years later to really understand. And by the way, I've been reconciled with my biological mother. And and we have a great relationship. And one of the pivotal moments in our relationship was being able to tell her, "Mom, I understand. You were 15 years old when you had me. And I forgive you. First, I want you to know I forgive you." And since that time, we've just moved on and had a great relationship. But based on those things, I grew up with all these abandonment issues, anger, rejection issues, etc., etc. And when I was in high school, I was in my freshman year, I was a varsity athlete. And then the following year, they started testing the teachers, and my coach failed, so they brought in another coach. And then he says, "Hey, look, I'm going to have to demote you to JV until you can get your mechanics right." Well, you don't get cheerleaders in JV, you know what I mean? So it was like, I couldn't take that. I couldn't take that demotion. Why? Again, rejection issues, not being able to handle that. And so fast forward, I said, you know what? Man, I'm 15 years old. I know everything. I'm a man. So I left. I left home. And quickly, once you're in the streets, running the streets, you run into other people that are just as miserable as you are. And then you start learning all these different things on the dark side, and selling drugs and just doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And I knew better. I knew better because the family that raised me did not raise me to be a criminal. So in my mind, I thought there was no other option. And that's what I did. I went out and stealing cars, selling drugs, and some of the stuff you saw there. And then, yes, I am responsible for a man losing his life. And that was like, I thought The state of Texas sought the death penalty against me. I was certified as an adult. Had just turned 17. Obviously, I didn't get the death penalty, but when I went to prison, it was like my life was over. And before you know it, that's where AP comes in. He was over the special prosecution unit in Texas and sentenced me to an additional 119 years for crimes committed in prison. Because that's how angry I was. I was mad at the world, and then I was too chicken to kill myself. So I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna mess with the baddest guy there is, and I'm gonna make him kill me. Turns out he wasn't that bad after all, you know? And then it was like, I just got so lost. I was so into darkness. And then investigating another crime I had committed, AP came in, and that's when that happened. Now, technically, that wouldn't qualify as necessarily a mentor, but he took the time to say, hey, do you believe in God? Because that man's a man of God. He's actually one of my best friends now. He actually moved out here, not too far from here. I tried to get him here. But he took time to ask me a simple question that changed the trajectory of my life. Did I believe in God? Just that simple. It didn't force feed it, didn't. And then the next question is, why don't I get to know him? And that just made too much sense. You know, I thought I was the brightest bulb in the warehouse. But I also have these trust issues. You got to remember, that's very important in all this, is I had all these trust issues, and I had to figure out, well, who was telling the truth? Because Muslims think they're serving God, and Jehovah's Witness, and then Mormons, and I mean, you have all these different things. So God gave me those 15 and a half years that I did in solitary confinement in a 6x9 cell, not knowing if it's night or day outside, was my cocoon. Because God gave me plenty of time to figure it all out. And that's what happened. And then it was the Bible. I'm telling you, when I read from Genesis to Maps, it spoke to me, continues to speak to me. And it just changed my mentality. It changed my attitude, everything about me. And I look back and I say, that could not possibly have been me. No way. It had to have been a nightmare. But it didn't. Excuse me, it did happen. And so that process from becoming a believer while in prison, God brought all these different people, these mentors that poured into my life, that gave up their free time to come in there and just show up, you know. When I was in population, I went to every church service there was, every Bible study there was. But it was in those church services that you saw these volunteers come in, and I'm sitting there saying to myself, you know, they could be doing all these other things, but they're coming to see us. And I appreciated that. I really appreciated that. And I soaked up all I could from them, and I would ask questions, you know, and what's it really like to be free, you know? Because remember, I was a kid going into prison. And then when the Lord opened the doors for me, it was having that accountability. The mentors that I had in my life, they're still in my life, you know, and they still help me and push me to excellence. And I think one of the key parts of mentorship that one of the kids said is just being honest and being who you are, not trying to be anything else other than, hey, I'm here for you. You know, I'm not here, I don't have a hidden agenda, I don't have anything other than, hey, I want to see you succeed. Because a lot of them have been told, because I can tell you from prison, all these guys have these misconceptions and misbeliefs. They've all been told, you'll never amount to nothing. And if I'd have believed that, I can tell you right now, I don't accept that anymore. I don't accept that. Okay, no, that can't be done. No, I don't want to hear that. No. By the grace of God, I just merged with an engineering firm. I travel all over the country solving ventilation issues. I go to gas plants. I go to high level different stuff helping with ventilation. It's a huge blessing. And the funny thing is the guy that I partner with, I mean, they're a very successful business. They've been in business for 75 years. And he says, you know, man, I've never met a guy like you. And you just blow away all these different ideas that I have about people that have been in trouble. I never want to hire an ex-convict, but you just make me change all that. Now I partnered with one, you know, and he's like, and I said, well, you know, that's what God can do. And he also serves as a mentor, you know, because he knows more about business than I do. And I do want to leave a little room for some questions. I'm sure some people have questions. I'm more than willing to answer any and all questions that you may have. So I want to open it up. If you have any questions before I close.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm one to believe that, you know, sentencing 17, 18, even a 20-year-old boy to life in prison is crazy to me. Is there something that you're working on to try to change that law where at least until they're 25, you know, the frontal lobe is not fully developed, you're not thinking rationally? There's something that you know about that?
No, I don't, but I don't think, I'm going to be very frank about it. I deserve that life sentence. A man lost his life. And then all the bad stuff that I did while I was in prison, I deserve to be in that solitary confinement cell for 15 and a half years. And I am a proponent of the death penalty. As crazy as that sounds. But we can't overlook there's accountability. And when I look back, I say, okay, yeah, I can use all these excuses. You know, I got adopted, this, that, and the other, but at the end of the day, I'm 100% responsible for my actions. And even though I was 17 and maybe not fully understand, but I knew better than to take a life. And so I would say I go to prison to do church services and counseling and stuff. And I tell the guys, I said, listen, this is your current situation. I was told I would never leave prison alive by the people that had the power to do that. But with God, God has the final say, right? And Edwin Cole said it best, a change isn't a change until a change takes place, right? So if you get a life sentence when you're 16, 17, guess what? You got plenty of time to prove them wrong, right? Or prove them right. But we cannot overlook accountability, that, in my mind, in my opinion. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, thank you very much for sharing your story.
Yes, ma'am.
I love it. A lot of people who commit crimes, they're thinking of the here and now. They're not thinking of 5 years from now, what their actions, their current actions, what would happen later on. Just out of curiosity, what are some of the things that you would tell people to think about the future that would make them think about the future instead of just here and now?
Great question. I like using this example. You know the worm that crawls around on the ground, right? And it turns into a chrysalis. And then it breaks out of the chrysalis, right? It's hard to see the butterfly in that worm. It's hard to see that butterfly in that worm, ain't it? When you stop and think about it, how is that going to be a worm? My point is a process. And I tell people, don't lose sight that your breakthrough can be right around the corner. So if the parole board gives you a set-off, or they're telling you that, you're not getting the answer that you want, then keep pushing forward, but don't give up. Because you just don't know what's around the corner. That's the way I would respond to that. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, God will not start something that He will not finish.
Yes, ma'am.
I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
Tell your story, brother, wherever you go, because it is a living testimony. Seeing is believing.
Yes, ma'am.
There's a lot of people that's been in prison that are so angry.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, there needs to be anger management, like real. And still, there's a lot of people that just return because they're angry. There needs to be programs in prison that are helping people.
Yes, ma'am.
So I wonder if there are any. And I'm talking because I have a brother that went to prison at 17. So angry. He's angry at everybody. I say, you need counseling. And why do I say that? He mad at me. He drives a truck because he got out of prison and that's the only job he can get. Everywhere he goes, he said, I knock at doors, and nobody gives me the opportunity because I'm an ex-convict.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. I'm trying to figure out what is it that he needs. Can you help me?
So to answer that, it goes back to as being a juvenile, which is why we're here. And that's why I want to change the trajectory of that from the juvenile standpoint before they get to prison, right? And that is, why are they angry? Circumstances. Again, in my case, I was mad at the world because my own mama and my own father didn't love me. That's how I thought. And they actually looked at me as trash. That's how I looked at it, because what mother and father gives their kid away? Right? So how else, why wouldn't I be angry? But then once we understand the love of God, right? And that's my response to God when I tell them that, when I see that they're angry, I say, you need to really be angry at yourself. That's what I tell them. And I'm very candid with them. And I point them to Galatians chapter 5. If you say you're a man of God, then you need to understand when you're angry, you're operating out of the flesh. Chapter 5. But anyways, yeah, hope that answers your question. Anyone else?
All right, so I'm gonna ask you. I know from a little bit of experience that, or at least I can figure that, when you were starting to make that change, when you were starting to make it clear that you really did want to follow the path of Christ, you probably had a lot of doubters, a lot of people that didn't believe it. That was absolutely ridiculous, or was manipulation or something like that. So, what was your journey trying to go through that?
I still have doubters. And I've been out 15 years. I still have doubters. And my thing is that man doesn't validate me. God validates who I am. And it's understanding your position in Christ that you can kind of move forward and realize, okay, that's not my problem. That's their problem. And I do encourage guys that are incarcerated or whoever, said, don't believe the lie. Because remember, the lie is just as powerful as the truth if you believe it. Right? And I focus in on that. The misbeliefs equals a negative mindset to darken emotions and godless behavior. There's a module that you go through. You got to identify the lies and replace it with the truth.
I know we've talked before, so none of your family came and visited you those 25
No,
years?
I didn't have any visitors. In the beginning, it was because I had a life sentence. That was home for me. So my family was now prison. That was my attitude, my negative attitude. And so I didn't want to see nobody. And
Did they try? I mean, were there letters? Did they like?
were, on occasion there were, but again, it was the people that you saw coming in volunteering that made a huge impact. And most I never even really talked to, but it was me observing that. I saw that and I said, man, that's awesome, you know? And that's what makes me want to be a volunteer today, you know? It's because I saw that. That's what I was taught. You know, I learned that. Those are good practices, you know? And that's what we should do. You know, when you graduate from Texas A&M, you give back, right? You graduate from the other school, UT, you give back. Well, I graduated from Penn State, so. So I'm giving back there. Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What do you think, what would have been changed at the stage where you are, you were a child member, when you went through that situation? So what do you think, what should have been the supportive decision or environment for you? So that you would have avoided that stage?
I don't know if I heard it right.
Like, how would you? What?
Rusty in here, maybe you could have,
Yeah, because it's hard to hear.
At this time, at this stage of your life. right
Yes, ma'am.
now, what do you think, like, when you were in childhood, what should have been supportive for you to avoid that step that you took in your
Or what would,
at that stage
I
of
get
your
it.
life?
Gotcha. Somebody coming in and saying, hey, you're on the wrong path, man. You're on the wrong path. But help me get there. Not just tell me, hey, you're on the wrong path. And then just leave me there to try to figure it out, because I couldn't figure it out, because I did have a moment in time I didn't want to do what I was doing. But I didn't know how to get help. I didn't really know. See, now today, as a mature man, I understand that there's programs in place that I could go and get help if I needed it. That was probably the main thing, is that there was no one that kind of said to me, hey, Art, you got your whole life ahead of you.
I got a question.
Yes.
How old were you when you got out? If I can ask. Well, you don't need to, like, you can give me a just a ballpark. When you,
Oh, she asked me
yeah.
the forbidden question.
No, I mean, no,
I was
mean,
44.
okay, so, and what was that experience like for you after being,
Yeah, for 27 years, yes.
and then did you go through a process? Did you have to go to like a halfway house or anything, or did you just
No,
go
ma'am,
from in
no.
prison to outside?
As soon as I walked out the gate, they patted me on the back and said, good luck, but we'll be waiting for you.
And they, yeah, you'll be
Yeah.
back.
Oh, and they gave me $50.
Oh,
And
So-
and they thought you were going to come back. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so,
It's hard.
all I know was this. That was not an option for me to go back. Unless I was going in as a volunteer. And I also know that I may not have had good credit. I may not have had a place to stay. I might not have this, that, and the other. I have Jesus in my heart. And I know that God is with me. Who can be against me? I just understand who I am in Christ. And so I've stood on that all the way through the tough times, the hard times, whatever adversity. That don't matter to me. I mean, I faced some serious stuff. The death penalty, starting out there as a kid, riots. I've had attempts made on my life that a bomb was thrown at me. All these different things. And I came away unscathed, at least outside, right? But inside, yeah, that stuff hurts, you know? But a reminder for me was this. I should have thought about that when I did this crime. You know, I never wanted to take away from the fact of my responsibility and what I'm accountable for. And I try not to make no excuses whatsoever for that, other than accept responsibility and let's move forward. And don't judge me for the ignorance of my youth, but judge me for the man that I am today. And so as an employer, I tell guys coming in, 9 out of 10 I don't hire. Why? They're not ready. And so when I go back into prisons, I keep telling them, y'all keep coming to my office wanting a job, and you're not even ready. You don't come with your ID, but you came with your cigarettes. How can you support a cigarette habit and you ain't even got a job? Right? And I said, y'all worried about having a girlfriend. Guess what? Before God gave Adam Eve, he gave him a job. Yes, sir. So that's what I do. That's mentoring. It's not being afraid to tell the truth. Right? Don't sugarcoat it. And I didn't want nobody to sugarcoat the truth for me. But no one did that for me. And praise God for you guys that are here today that are part of that. And I want to give you this last bit. I want to share this one last thing with you. Because you might not be able to see. God tells us to plant and to water. Right? But it's God who gives the increase. So we got to stop thinking, I'm going to change this person. I'm going to change this person. You can't change nobody but yourself. Right? But I don't want that to be a discouragement to you. If anything, I want to read this one scripture to you. That's out of 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 58. It says, therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. It's not in vain. You might not see it. You might not see the impact that you're having, but I promise you, you are having an impact. Because I'm one of those persons that would sit there, that was quiet, didn't say nothing. I didn't even participate seemingly, but inside I was. And I paid attention. And then, sure enough, when I've gotten out, I've literally, every volunteer that crossed my path, I've reached out to them to say thank you. And I said, if you ever wondered what kind of impact you've had, I want you to look at my life and say, man, I had a part to do with that. You know what I'm saying? So with that, I appreciate your time. If there's no more questions, I'll hand it back over to Susan. I probably went over my time. I'm
You
sorry.
did it. You did it.
Yes, ma'am.
When you were released from prison, what did you do? What was your first thought?
Okay, they handed me, I'm glad you asked me that.
Who helped you? What happened?
Okay, first I walked out, right? Everybody was on the fence that was out of the prison, in prison, along the fence, because they could not believe that I was being let out. And then my mentor that was able to take me and drive me to my house, I told him, hurry up, man, I think they made a mistake. Let's go. And then they handed me this thing, right? When they handed me this, I said,
What the heck is
breaker, breaker, 19. Breaker, breaker, 19. So, and it was actually my parole officer that taught me. I'm gonna turn it off. My parole officers who taught me how to use my phone. And, ever since then, now don't get me wrong, when I first walked out, they gave me, I called it free jewelry from the state, which was an ankle monitor and then a monitor system. I was under the highest level of supervision there is known to mankind. I had to make a schedule for every week. But I told them, I don't mind, look, I'll put one around my neck if y'all want me to. I'm good, And in that schedule, you cannot leave the house. If you leave your house without that monitor and it's not on your schedule, that's an immediate violation. So I had to do that for over a year. And then all the way up until now, I only report one time a year now. But I'm the one checking on them. I say, hey, don't forget me. I am on parole. So they appreciate that.
So where did you go? Where was your house? Like who did you go?
My mother, my biological mother.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Oh, she's got a testimony herself. Remember, she was 15 when she had me.
She just retired as a police officer.
Oh.
Wow.
Amen.
I'm sure she probably told you, I gave you up for adoption so you could have a better life than what I could provide for you.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry that you thought you were just trash, but I did this to help you.
yes. She had a chance and an opportunity to clean it all up. Right? So I told her, when I said I forgave her, that's it. I don't have to look back. I can't live in the past.
No.
No.
What about your adopted family?
My adopted family, yeah, I mean, we're good. We're good. I mean, I had to tell them, I would not have handled it that way, and I get it. You were just doing the best you could. And I love them and appreciate them because they were the ones that raised me to be a gentleman. Yeah, they're the ones that gave me the core values and, to be right, to live right.
And what are you saying, the way they handled it, not telling you until you were, well, they weren't gonna tell you at all, I guess. You didn't find out till you were 10. What are you saying they didn't handle right? That they
I
didn't?
felt that, well, in my opinion.
Right.
I would not have handled it as far as letting that much time go. I was
Without
ready
you-
to know the truth.
Okay.
If they had sat me down and said, hey, listen, want to talk to you about something, okay?
And I think it's different now. Back in the day, they didn't do that. They wasn't told, tell them right away,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but.
And it didn't help that they just couldn't stand my mother.
Oh.
Because it was her fault, their son,
Sure.
right? So,
Are you still on parole?
I am on parole for life. Barring God interceding, which I believe He is, I believe that I'll get either a time served or a pardon.
You can do all things.
That's right. So I walked out. I had a book like this thick. I handed that to my parole officer. She goes, "What is this?" I said, "Those are my goals."
Wow.
She said, "That's exactly what she said." She said, "Wow." She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I had 30-day goals, 60-day goals,
Wow.
90-day goals, 6-month goals, all the way to 10 years. I've done every single one of them.
Wow.
Every single one of them."
One more question.
Yes, ma'am.
How many units did you go to? Did you go to different units?
No, I was a knucklehead. So they had me. I was at Ferguson, and from there to East Ham. I was on all maximum security units. Yes, ma'am.
As someone obviously on the other end of the spectrum that's mentoring, is there anything that you think like would have really hit you or really helped you as like a juvenile? Because I lack a little bit in the life experience area,
Mm-hmm.
but would still like to think that I can give them something. So is there anything particular that you think would like get through to them more at their age?
Yeah, just you being you. You showing up.
Showing up.
Just showing up. I mean, I'm telling you that you may not even. You might just sit there and just look at each other. Right? But you're there. But you're there. So sometimes you don't have to say anything. It's just being there. Yeah. And thank you for that.